Hi, this is Krista Walsh.
Hey, this is Daniel Arthur Smith.
Hey, this is Terry R. Hill.
Hey, it's Josh Hayes, and you're listening to
30-minute author interviews
with my friend Preston Lay.
Woohoo!
Hey everybody, welcome to this week's episode of 30-Minute Author Interviews. We do have a giveaway with this week's episode, but before I tell you about it, I want to tell you about our sponsor, The Galactic Satori Chronicles by Nick Breaker and Paul E. Hicks. The Galactic Satori Chronicles. A thirst for revenge sends one man on a deadly journey through the galaxy in this adrenaline-pumping new series. Asher is a young man whose world is turned upside down when he discovers that his fiance's death has been directly caused by an imminent alien invasion. In a desire to better understand humans in order to destroy them, these aliens are projecting their consciousness into unsuspecting men and women, and in the process are learning exactly how to use humanity's own selfishness and greed as weapons against them. Fueled by emotions that the aliens will never understand, Asher bands together with a group of friends. These four MIT co-eds are more than meets the eye and go to battle with those who are intent on destroying our planet. Asher takes the fight from Earth to an alien spaceship and then to the very planet of the enemy trying to destroy them. The Galactic Satori Chronicles can be found on Amazon, where you can get Book 1 Earth for 99 cents and Book 2 Kron for $2.99. So head on over to Amazon and search for Galactic Satori Chronicles, or you can head on over to Leigendarium.com and check out the show notes for this episode. In the show notes, we'll include the link to where you can find both Book 1 and Book 2 of the Galactic Satori Chronicles on Amazon. This week our guest is the writing team of Hall Beaulieu, and they would like to give two people the chance to win an ebook copy of their debut novel, Brother Dust: The Resurgence. All you need to do is listen to the episode and then head on over to Leigendarium.com and find the show notes for this episode. And in the show notes, let us know what was your favorite part of the episode. It's as simple as that. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy our interview with Hall Beaulieu. Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode of 30-Minute Author Interviews. This week, we actually have a author team joining us. We have the team of Hall and Beaulieu. I'm probably butchering it, but I'm close. Joining us, that's Aaron Hall and Steve Beaulieu. Thanks for taking time out of your day and coming on 30-Minute Author Interviews.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, not a problem. Well, we start out each of our episodes here with a segment that we call Two Truths and a Lie. I think I have failed at this more than I have succeeded. I need to go back and start keeping track of my record. So we'll start with Aaron, since your name is first up in y'all's Hall and Beaulieu.
I knew that was going to pay off someday.
Nice.
It just now paid off.
Right here.
That's right. You get to go first. So if you could, can you tell me two truths and a lie about yourself?
All right. Well, one time while doing a kids ministry at our church, I fell off the stage during kids worship.
Oh, no.
One time I wrote a 35,000-word outline for an 80,000-word novel. And one time I went to the dentist 36 times in 1 year.
Man, they all sound like they are so true. I know that y'all go to the same church, and man, I know that. Oh man, like I said, I know y'all go to the same church. Steve, you're the pastor, so I've never heard if you're in the youth ministry though. It would be a funny story though, if you fell off the stage. I hope you didn't get hurt if it's true. But let's see. All right, and 36 times to the dentist sucks. I hope that's not true either. Dang it. Okay, I'm going to say the dentist one. No, I'm going to say falling off the stage during the youth service is the lie, cuz I don't know if you're the youth part of the youth group there or not.
Wow. See, you win, sir.
Did I really?
Now, for the record, that's a true story, but it happened to my brother. So I was trying to trick you.
Because he knows your brother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He knows,
Right.
I was trying to trick you with someone you don't know. I got you, fool.
But I was like, I could present it. I could sell it like it's true because it sort of is. Just didn't happen to me.
Aaron actually had a moral conundrum because he just couldn't tell a lie. So he had to find a way to.
That's right. So you wrote a 35,000 word outline for an 80,000 word story?
Yeah, I was an idiot. I don't know.
Wow.
This guy's outlines like upset me sometimes. I just want to start writing a book, and he's sending me pictures of himself like sprawling over notebooks. I'm like, dude, just write you could have written the book by now.
So you're like one of those when you see somebody on like those crime TV shows, the FBI, they've got crap all over the wall with strings going everywhere. Is that how you outline your books?
Pretty close.
Gotcha. That's funny. All right. So I'm 1-0 in your episode. So Steve, let's try your 2 truths and a lie.
Let's try this. All right. So before I was the age 25, I worked in almost 40 fields of employment. I camped out in front of Fox Studios for 4 days when they decided to cancel Firefly. And I got married before I had my driver's license.
Dang it. I can believe the driver's license because my grandma never had a driver's license.
So I'm like your grandma? Is that what you're telling me?
That's right. You were like my grandma.
All right.
So that one could. I don't know about the camping out. I know. See, I've cheated because I've listened to y'all on Hank Garner's podcast and Keystone.
Told you I shouldn't have used that one, Aaron Hall.
So I know that you said that you have done a ton of jobs. I think, or was that Aaron? I'm gonna say the job one's true. And I'm going to say the driver's license one is true. So I'm going to say the lie is camping out in front of Fox Studios when Firefly was canceled.
Bravo. I hate Firefly. So I would have camped out if they actually kept it on air. And like, what are you thinking? There's much better things you could be doing with that money.
That is so. See, everybody, I bought it because I found it for like, I guess they only did one season, but I found it at Walmart for $9, but I haven't watched it yet.
That was the worst $9 you ever spent.
Come on.
You could have bought something at Chili's and actually enjoyed it.
And everybody just turned off the episode. So for the
everyone hates me now.
For the 2 people that are still here.
to get a refund on Brother Duff on Amazon, follow this link.
Hey, I love Battlestar though. Does that count?
Yeah.
There you go. See, now I never, growing up, I was in the Boy Scouts and I played church basketball and I was in the band. So I never got into science fiction.
Well, it's the devil's
right.
genre, right?
Right.
Evil.
I actually never read until I met my wife. She told me I should read Harry Potter.
Yes.
And so I never got into reading until I think 4 Harry Potter books were already out in paperback by the time I got into reading.
Well, I mean, Harry Potter is what drew me to you in the very first place. So,
really?
It's a good thing to have our hearts knit together by J.K. Rowling.
So, yeah, I never really got into sci-fi or reading sci-fi until I got into indie publishing. So it's only been... I never watched much Battlestar. I never saw a ton of the episodes of Star Trek. I've seen Star Wars.
We're done here. We're done here, right?
We're done. That was a quick interview. So that's funny.
Lost me on the Battlestar.
Yeah.
Never VSG.
So you never got your driver's license until you got married. Was that because you just lived in a small area and you could bike everywhere?
No, I'll keep this brief, but long story short, I got my permit when I was 15, and in Florida, the permit looks just like the license. It just kind of has a check mark on the back that says, learner's permit. And everyone I was friends with, I was, in the music scene growing up, and so everybody was older than me. And so anywhere I needed to drive, I always went with somebody anyway. And so when you have your permit, you can drive with anyone over 18.
Oh, okay.
And so And then I met my wife, who was a little bit older than me. My dad and I went to concerts together, so I was always with my dad. And so at no point during those years, now I tried to get my license several times, which resulted in like my parents' car horn was broken, so I failed. They didn't have their insurance card in the car, so I failed. And so I tried several times, and then I just went, you know what? I've never suffered from not having a driver's license, and I really don't want to keep going through this. So I finally, when I got married, my wife and I were talking. I'm like, I don't have my driver's license, and I probably should get it. If I have to drive alone for some reason, I should probably have my license and do it legally. So that's when I decided to do it.
That's funny. So y'all are the writing team known as Hall, and am I getting close to saying it right? Beaulieu?
So the way to remember it is that you bowl your ball down the alley. So it's Beaulieu.
Beaulieu. Okay.
Beaulieu.
Y'all are the writing team of Hall and Beaulieu. How did y'all get together? How did y'all meet each other, and how did y'all decide, you know what, let's just start writing stories together?
Well, Steve and I met at church. He's the worship pastor at our church, and he drafted me into to play bass in the worship band. And Steve has an interesting way about how he kind of puts people into service. And it's that method where you see like a dad that to teach his kid to swim, he throws them off the end of the dock into the lake.
Right.
That's kind of Steve's approach to life with people. And so he said, you ever play bass? And I said, yeah, a while back, a long time ago. And he said, cool. Well, you're playing tomorrow night at the church, and it's going to be great. And we're excited to have you. And so that's how we became friends. And then I don't know if you want to pick up on how you found out I was a writer.
Yeah, I went over to his house to play Oculus Rift. And I think I've told this story before, but I'll tell it again because you and your listeners haven't heard it. I was in the house, and after I was done being nauseated by the game. Have you ever played Oculus Rift, Preston?
I've never even heard of it until y'all talked about it.
Yeah, Oculus Rift, it's like, PlayStation VR. It's a VR system for computers, and it's some of the most realistic things I've ever seen in my life. And so I'm sitting down playing some car racing game or something, and they've got this chair. I still to this day don't understand why the chair moves the way that it moves. It's actually just, as far as I know, it's just a computer chair. But like when you're playing, I guess you move so much with it because you feel like you're actually in the car that the chair starts rolling around with you. Or maybe I'm just an idiot and I'm like when you used to play Mario Kart and you move to the side as you turn. It might have just been one of those things, but. Dude, I was so done with this thing. I couldn't stay in front of the computer. I kept ripping the steering wheel off of the computer desk because I was like gripping it so hard. So I finally got up, and I'm not a bad gamer either, I'm not selling that very well. But I got up and I walked into Aaron's room, and I saw on his bookshelf several books that he had written. And I knew that he wrote, but I'd never read anything that he'd written. So I said, I don't remember what I said. It doesn't matter what I said, but he ended up giving me a book to read. And as I was leaving the house, I felt what I would refer to as just the prompting of God to say, you're going to write a book with this guy. And so I turned to him like, hey, let's write a book together. And it was pretty terrifying, having never read anything he wrote and knowing that I had started and failed to complete several novels over the years. But I just thought, hey, let's do this thing. And so within really the next 2 days, we had started writing together. Aaron wrote a full chapter of Brother Dust based upon the comic book that it was based on that I wrote. And, he took 6 panels and turned it into a chapter. And I went, this is great. And we just moved forward. So
do you think y'all will ever release it as a comic book like you originally intended?
It's a great question. I mean, I have the first 6 issues, the first 6 pages of the first issue. A guy named Brett Dooley, great artist. He went into the Marines, so we kind of just stopped. And then a good friend of mine, Jack Fleming, did all the inks, and then I did the colors. We have 6 pages done, and they look really good. It's not the same story anymore. The story has evolved so much. I mean, there's still some of the elements there, but Aaron would tell the story of how this book evolved from being kind of a snarky. Brother Dust was pretty snarky, a mix between Spider-Man and Deadpool, kind of, just very, very snarky. And then it's kind of evolved into this really dark, Brother Dust is more along the lines of a Spawn or just real dark guy, tortured soul, so to speak.
Okay.
So it would be a lot more lighthearted if we released it the way that it was originally written.
Oh yeah, it was very, very comic booky in that regard. And it's just funny because when I learned about the character's origin and his situation and just kind of this desperate fight he was in against just this evil empire, and he was kind of in it alone. And I saw the character, I think, a much more, I think Steve used a phrase like just a little darker than, I didn't see him having these kind of like juvenile quips and like one-liner jokes that work really well in a comic book setting. One of the first things that in my mind as a novelist, I just didn't see any way for that to translate. And I'm sure another writer could have, but it would have been such a different book had we stuck with maybe that incarnation of the character.
Well, I remember the first time I read what he wrote. First of all, I fell in love with it. I thought it was fantastic. And then that, like I said, that's kind of where the journey started. But I remembered him taking out some of the humor, some of the fun, and I struggled with it for about a minute and a half. And then the great thing about the relationship Aaron and I have is like we just don't really care enough about ourselves to force it in there, I guess. We look at what the other person wrote and we go, that actually could work really well. Let's go with that.
Yeah.
And so I saw what he was doing. I saw that he had the passion to make it happen. And it's not like I was so sold. This wasn't a comic book. It was a comic book in progress. And so I went, well, if this is going to work better as a novel, let's do it.
Yeah. So for my listeners that don't know kind of, your book blurb on what Brother Dust is about, it's actually Brother Dust, the Resurgence.
Right.
Can you let them know the little book blurb on what Brother Dust is about?
Well, Brother Dust is about a character named Brother Dust, and he was born under mysterious circumstances, and he has these powers to turn his body from solid. He's never fully solid. He's always falling between solid and dust and sand, and so he's always been kind of a freak and a monster, and he ends up in conflict against the Salavat Empire, who go planet to planet and they drill. They'll promise all the locals all these great things while secretly destroying their planet to release the energy of their core. And so Brother Dust kind of takes it upon himself to go to war with these guys. And it really is about his sort of desperate battle against almost an unbeatable enemy and the unlikely alliances he forms along the way. I don't know. Anything to add to that, Steve?
No, I'm just impressed that you didn't just read that. That was a pretty decent elevator pitch. When I do that, I'm like, oh, sure, it's Spider-Man, and sure. Okay, he did a great job.
Cool. All right.
That's funny. So is this going to be a series or is this a standalone?
We have 37 planned. No, I'm just kidding. I think we have at least 3 planned. I hate that because everybody's like, I wrote a novel. Well, actually, it's a trilogy, but we actually have all 3 of them planned. And if it goes beyond that, that would be great. But I think if we looked at our long list of books that we want to write, we don't have enough time in our life to actually accomplish all of that. So at some point, I think we might have to say Brother Dust is done so that we could actually write some of this other stuff that we want to get done.
Oh, okay. So I kind of talked to you about this before. We're going to try something a little different here. Do you have a little excerpt that you can read from Brother Dust so our readers can hear what it kind of sounds like?
So I'm going to ask forgiveness because I have a little bit of a cold.
Fine. I think everybody's suffering from a cold or allergies right now.
All right, well, let's see if this works.
Okay.
Brother Dust watched the Salavat as he held on to the final strands of life. The man's eyes went wide as he saw Brother Dust. His chest started heaving, causing more blood to come cascading out of his body. There couldn't be much blood left inside him at this point. "You!" the man wheezed. Brother Dust knelt beside him, studying the Salavat's agonized face. He read the name printed across the pilot's helmet. "Wendell," Brother Dust said, reading the name aloud. Something occurred to him as he spoke the name. "I haven't spoken to anyone in a long time." Wendell was in a panic now, face to face with the demon of Dastropan in his final moments of life. His remaining arm flailed about in the darkness, frantically searching for something in the ruined craft. Every moment caused more blood to come spilling out of his ruined body. "You should sit still. Death will be here soon," Brother Dust said. His words provoked the man more, causing him to grow even more frenzied as he felt around the cockpit. "Do you have family? Someone who loves you?" Brother Dust asked. Finding what he was searching for, a twisted snarl came across Wendell's face. He wanted to see Brother Dust pay for his sins. "Back to hell with you," he wheezed. He brought up his arm. He was clutching a small pistol in his hand. Wendell shook with effort, and blood was spurting from his chest and from the missing limb as he lined the gun up with Brother Dust's head. Brother Dust remained perfectly still as Wendell pulled the trigger. With a thought, Brother Dust shifted his form slightly, allowing bullet after bullet to pass harmlessly through his head. They clanged against the wall of the ship, then clattered to the floor, followed by the gun. The anger on the man's face melted away, replaced by agony. "Demon!" the soldier cried, pale as the ghost he would soon give up. "What does it feel like?" Brother Dust asked. Having never felt anything before, he longed to know. "Tell me about your pain." The life was nearly gone from the Salavat pilot. Tears filled his eyes. His whole body shook as he fixed Brother Dust with a defiant stare. "Curses upon you, demon! Curses upon you for all eternity!" They were words spoken with a dying breath. Wendell's head slumped to the side as the last of his blood escaped from his body. Brother Dust studied the scene. He was no stranger to death, but it usually came swiftly. This was different, something Brother Dust only occasionally experienced. The hatred the Salavat had for him, to use his final moments in life to express that hatred, was this the sum result of Brother Dust's campaign against the High Father, hatred and death? Brother Dust stood, taking one last look before departing the craft. Curses indeed.
That is awesome. So was that scene you just read, was that part of the graphic or the comic book that you originally started drawing, or is this later on in the book?
No, Aaron, this is actually chapter 2. Aaron, when he took over kind of writing primary from the comic, in other words, he looked at the comic and then he started writing this novel as the primary author. He created a whole lot of new stuff that did not exist in the comic book, and this was a portion of that. This is what sold me, actually, on doing the story this way. This was our first real look at Brother Dust, and in the comic, we hadn't yet decided whether or not Brother Dust killed people. In comic books, you kind of have two choices. You either got the Punisher, who just doesn't care, or you've got somebody like Batman who has the moral compass to say, you know what, I could do a lot of things, but killing's not one of them. And then the few times that he fails at that, it really tears him up. And so Brother Dust kind of took on the position of a combination of both of those. He doesn't want to kill, but as a matter of fact, on the back cover of the printed copy, the line, the kind of the selling line is, "This is my curse. Death follows me everywhere I go." And he hates the fact that death is everywhere around him, and he's the cause of it most times. And so he suffers along with those who suffer in a way.
Very nice. Now I'm just kind of curious. One of my favorite Hugh Howey stories is called Sand. Were you inspired any by the world of Sand when writing this, or none at all?
Forgive me. I found out who Harry. Harry. I found out. Sorry, man. I found out who Hugh Howey was only about 6 months ago.
Oh, really?
I don't. You know what? Maybe it's awful to admit this, but like I had never been in the indie scene at all. As a matter of fact, when we started writing this, Aaron and I had every intention of going traditional with it. We,
right.
We just Aaron wrote like 9 or 11 novels or something like that, and he self-published them, but didn't do it the way that we have learned to do it. And it wasn't until Nick Cole came around and said, don't do that, that we realized traditional publishing might not be the way to go. And so we started the indie scene thing, and over the course of the past year, learned who all these tremendous authors are. If I'm being honest, I've never read anything from Hugh Howey. The closest I've come to reading something from Hugh Howey was Michael Bunker's Hugh Howey Must Die. And so I got nothing as far, and I hear he's phenomenal, and I will read him eventually, but no, there was no inspiration pulled from that at all. Don't tell me that it's like the same story, because I'll quit life.
No, it's not. So Sand is in the future. What can I say without giving it away? There is people, it's like a desert that people are living in, and there's people called sand divers, and they wear this suit that somehow vibrates enough to where they can dive down into the sand, and deep down in the sand there are treasures and cities buried underneath sand where they can go in buildings and try to scavenge stuff out of there and bring it up and sell it. And so I was just curious if maybe the whole him being he can transform into dust might have been inspired any by I'm actually looking at the cover of Brother Dust right now, and it looks like it could be in the world of Sand almost with the scene that you have there. So that's why I was kind of wondering if y'all had read Sand by Hugh Howey and if it was inspired by that any.
No, the original inspiration actually came from a joke, which I love that it started as a joke. But I was writing another comic book called Driver, and we were looking for a villain. And I was just talking to a friend of mine, and his name is Dusty. And he's like, man, I want to be the villain. And, we were at church at the time, and we're not the kind of church that calls everybody brother. We actually kind of do it a little bit as a joke, and I said, hey, call him brother. It'll be Brother Dusty, and he'll be a monk. And he's like, no, Brother Dust. And I'm like, yeah, he could turn into dust and he'd be this great villain. And then suddenly we actually created Brother Dust, the antagonist, or not the antagonist, but the anti-hero, so to speak. And so, yeah, it just kind of all started as a joke.
Oh, that's funny. I haven't read a lot of Hugh Howey, but Sand is my favorite by him. I might check it out. Yeah. It's a pretty fun story. Yeah, you definitely should check it out. I pre-ordered a signed copy from him when it came out in paperback, and he lived at the time. He wasn't living on a boat. He was living in a house. I think it was in Florida, and he went to the beach and got sand and would sprinkle sand into everybody's book that pre-ordered it. So when you opened it up, you might have some sand to fall out on you. It's pretty cool.
That's awesome. I'm from Florida originally. Of course, I live in Texas now, but now I kind of want to go live in Florida just so I could sprinkle sand in everyone's Brother Dust.
We should at least put dust.
That's right. Get some dust. Just go clean your house.
Right, I have plenty of dust.
Yeah.
That doesn't. No, I'm sorry, wife. I mean, we don't. My wife is a phenomenal housekeeper. And
I'm a bachelor. I haven't dusted my house in 6 years.
Funny. You'll have to do sprinkle dust in the books now.
If we write a book about dog hair, I win.
There we go. That's funny. So we've mentioned comic books a lot with Brother Dust. So what genre do you see Brother Dust actually fitting into, or have you created your own?
Well, I mean, it's kind of a book that almost falls between certain categories. It's kind of a space opera to me, but most of it doesn't take place in space. So that one's kind of hard to sell. A superhero kind of fits. Sci-fi adventure is maybe my favorite. I don't know how to really perfectly categorize it.
How about you, Steve? How would you classify Brother Dust?
I think science fantasy really, really works, if that could be a thing. Superhero genre, in my mind, it works. See, Aaron and I have a totally different view of what this book is. He sees it as more of a military sci-fi war story, and I see it as a superhero comic book. I still do to this day. The problem with classifying it as a sci-fi military type of thing is there's really not a lot of science in the book at all.
Yeah.
It fits more in the Marvel Cinematic Universe in the sense that we wrote it. We want you to just believe the world. We created the world in such a way that it looks and feels a lot like Earth so that we don't have to explain a whole bunch of stuff. But then there's some elements that we hint at that really our desire is just that you go, okay, this thing exists in the way that it exists. And it doesn't defy science or anything like that. But at the same time, we don't want to have to explain every little thing to you in order to make it a 600-page book. We already cut it down. It was 140,000 words. We cut it down to 115,000 words. Oh, wow. We just wanted to spare the reader anything unnecessary, even though we felt like those 35 or 25,000 words were great. Mm-hmm. We figured, well, let's give the reader something shorter to enjoy so that they can more easily jump into book 2 when it comes out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that was smart. I think there's so many like epic fantasy I want to read, but then you pick up the book and it's so big. You're just like, oh man, this is a big book. Yeah. So was it hard cutting out that many words though?
Well, when I first got the message from Steve, I think we need to remove this entire plot in the middle of the book. That was a hard 10 minutes to sit and chew on it. But once we got our heads around the idea of ripping out so much of the middle of the book, it wasn't as hard as I thought it would be, actually.
Well, we kicked around a million ideas. I'm an editor at heart. I'm the guy on Facebook that everyone hates and posts grammar Nazi stuff.
Yes.
I've tried my hardest to just like not get involved in other people's grammar lives unless it affects me. And man, on Facebook, there's just times where it affects me and I have to say something. But moving forward, so I don't alienate myself further. I read this book about 8 times, and every time I went through it, my desire was to cut it and clean it and do as much as we could. J.K. Rowling, I think, was quoted saying, a book's not done when there's nothing more to add, but when there's nothing more to take away. And that's what makes the Harry Potter series so brilliant, is that there's nothing in it that doesn't matter. Everything in it matters. Something Harry said in book 1 might come into play in book 6. And that's that moment where you go, wow, she's had this planned for so long. And so I wanted to just take out as much as we could that was unnecessary to the plot line. But one of the first things that we thought we might do is actually just cut the whole book in half and sell it as 2 different books.
Oh, okay.
But it would have taken so much effort to create 2 different stories, and what we would have ended up feeling like was that we were serializing it, and we weren't intending to serialize it. We wanted the epic story that we were telling to be the first thing that you get out of it. We wanted that Star Wars feel where the beginning and the end feel there's like a complete story there. And it was the story that you wanted to read, and not like Lord of the Rings Part 1 where Sam and Frodo are on a canoe and you're like, what the crap, it ended? And then let's wait a year until the next movie comes out. We didn't want that feel where you're like, but it didn't end right. There's no ending to it. And so instead of cutting it in 2, we just said, you know what, there's 25,000 words here we just don't need.
Yeah. That's such a good way to end a book too. The first one that pops in my mind, I'm sure people are tired of hearing me talk about this book, but Sleeping Giants, the way that he ended it, Sleeping Giants is going to be a trilogy. The way he ended book 1 was satisfying. He did leave a few things open, but for the most part, you're satisfied. And I think that's such a great way to end a book, to leave people wanting a little bit more, but at the same time, they feel satisfied with what they read and they feel like they completed a story.
There's plenty conclusion here for Brother Dust, but there's a wide open stick around for book 2. Our original intent was that July we were going to release book 2. We've had some other projects that came up. We started the Superheroes and Supervillains anthology that's coming out. And then we just released the Monsters anthology. And so additionally, we're both working on several things. I don't know why we can't just stop and focus, but things just came up. And so we're going to push back the release a little bit. It'll still be this year. I think our original intent was to release all 3 books this year. And I just don't know that that's going to happen exactly the way that we wanted to. But because there's some things kind of hovering in the air at the end of book 1, we really wanted there to not be that long a wait until people can pick up book 2 and read it. But I could promise this, you'll be satisfied in an unsatisfied way.
Nice.
That works. That's funny. So that's something else I wanted to ask y'all about. Just this year alone, looking at your publication date, y'all have released your debut novel, Brother Dust. You have released 3 short stories in 2 different anthologies, plus you've released your own short story, Sparkle Ship Shine. How do y'all write and release so much? I mean, we're only in April right now. As of recording, we are in April recording this, the end of April. How have y'all released so much stuff in just 4 months of 2017?
Well, some of it we wrote in 2016, so that helps.
Right.
It really just depends on Steve is really kind of the engine that keeps the car driving 100 miles an hour. He really, one of the many ways that Steve's been just an amazing partner to have for me is the fact that there's not really a break on Steve. Once he gets going on something, it's just like, yeah, this is the direction we're going and we're going to go at this rate of speed and let's get it done. And so he's a great motivator and an inspiration to really just keep going and to work hard. And that helps me because I tend to write in I'm trying to think of the right word, but like I'll write 10,000 words in 2 days, but then I won't write a word for the rest of the week. Whereas Steve is more like he'll write 1,500 or 2,000 words every day of the week. So while I had 2 amazing days, at the end of the week, he wrote more than I did. And, I think having 2 people that are constantly writing really helps. I mean, that's almost, we get to cheat it a little bit. Whereas one author can only produce so much. We're able to pass projects back and forth. So while I'm working on something else, what I just finished is getting edited and also getting a second draft written by Steve and stuff like that. So that really helps us with our output as well.
So what is the writing process with the 2 of y'all? Is one person in charge of the main story arc, or how does that writing process work with 2 people?
Well, probably one of the funnest things I love to do is brainstorming. And so usually once we have an idea, we'll sit down together and work through it and get ideas and just flesh it out some. And then we'll, once we kind of get it in a place where we're comfortable, and Steve's usually ready to start writing right away, and I want to do an outline. So I'll get some sort of an outline going for us, and then we'll have somebody, usually whoever's most passionate about the project, will write what we call primary, and they'll kind of do the first draft on it. And then as we finish chapters or sections or whatever, we'll pass them to the other person, and then we'll write into it. Sometimes depending on the project, the word count will double. We'll write in just as much as the first person, and other times we'll only add in some, words, and then we'll also do an edit. And so that's kind of the process. It's kind of just back and forth, handing the versions back and forth and editing and adding in.
I think the great thing with Aaron and myself is that at no point, we don't ever ask each other, is this okay? We trust each other enough that if he sends something my way or I send something his way and something just doesn't work, we might text the other person and be like, hey, this doesn't work, I'm changing it. But there's never really much more discussion from there. It's just like, here's what I did, here it is. We don't track changes. I think we started doing the track changes thing where everything that's changed is put in red. But we just decided to kind of stop doing that because it makes a messy project, and neither of us really care in the end what was changed, who wrote what. I think what's been fun with Brother Dust is several times we've been like, who wrote that part? And like, we just don't remember.
Yeah, we don't even remember.
My wife, to this day, my wife is the only person that has ever been able to pick out something out of Brother Dust that I wrote that Aaron didn't. And I think it was probably just because there was a phrase that was used that was something that I say regularly. I talk like a pompous jerk sometimes because I just love the English language.
Was it the phrase creeping incrementalism?
It might have been.
Because I would never say that. I love it.
So
but that's the part that I always remember. Oh, that was definitely Steve.
Yeah. That's funny. So, okay, this might be throwing y'all under the bus here, this question, but I'll never be able to ask anybody else this question. So, I don't know how your church works. After your main worship service, do you ever say, Aaron, I need to see you in my office real quick, and then y'all end up working on the story while everybody else is out worshiping in Sunday school?
No. I mean, I won't say that there's not been times where I had to take a bathroom break to check our Amazon sales. But we've been there for 3 hours before worship service is over, and so bathroom break is usually pretty necessary for me anyway. But we both genuinely love being in church, and so we both kind of have the attitude that if the doors are open, we're in service anyway. But, I mean, there's been temptations, like we're both in the building at the same time, and we really have a project going that we'd love to discuss. But hey, sometimes you just gotta push aside writing.
Yeah. What we have done a lot is after church.
Yeah.
Well, we meet up in Steve's pastor office, and I don't know if people think we're going over Bible lessons or something, but a lot of times we're outlining projects or something after hours.
Well, I take grand faith in the fact that my wife doesn't actually listen to anything that we do. So I'll go ahead and just talk openly. Man, there's times where my poor wife, thinks that, thinks I'm still at church. And meanwhile, Aaron and I are outlining something. And generally it comes out in the end. Generally she's like, where are you? I'm trying to put Oliver in the bed. And where are you? And I don't lie to her. I'm like, well, Aaron and I had to brainstorm a project. And I know that when I say that, she's like, you jerk. It's 10 o'clock at night and I need to get to bed and you're doing outlines.
Oh, that's too funny.
But my wife is forgiving, so.
That is too funny. Well, here at the Leigendarium and 30-minute author interviews, we like to end each of our episodes with a segment that we call the legendary ending. So as you might know, these questions are kind of book related, kind of not book related. So the first question, since we started with Aaron for Two Truths, we'll start with you for this one, Steve. What songs are currently on your writing playlist?
You had to ask me this question. So I'm a musician. I've been playing music since I was 11 years old. My job is to play music. I'm a worship pastor. I toured for years in a metal band. I don't like music. I'm just going to come out and like be that guy. I'm not really into music. Really? If it's not something that I am writing and working on or whatever, I don't really listen to music. I listen to books all day long. I listen to music. I listen to worship music pretty much exclusively. And what I mean by that is, bands like Hillsong and Bethel and those that you can go and look up and see and understand what I'm talking about. But I can't listen to music while I'm doing anything that requires concentration.
Can I just say this about Hillsong? Because I listen to a lot of we listen to a lot of Christian music as well, but that song "Oceans," I am so tired. My wife plays that song, and it's like 7 minutes of just please.
I think we're all tired of hearing Oceans. Yeah, I think so. I'm a huge Elevation worship fan.
Okay.
It's a band from a church, Elevation Church. Stephen Furtick is the pastor in North Carolina. Mm-hmm. And I think they're probably, Spotify will tell me that they're the number one played thing on my Spotify for several years now. If I'm listening to music, it's because I'm worshiping God. Mm-hmm. It's not because I'm trying to enjoy listening to music. If I want to enjoy music, I'll listen to like something like Fit for a King or Seven Dust or something really incredibly heavy while I'm mowing the lawn.
Right.
I cannot listen to music while I write. It's impossible for me. All I do is start picking apart chord progressions and drum beats.
That's funny.
And I lose focus altogether.
That's funny. Now, the best version of Oceans is by, is it The Breaks? They're a Christian hip hop group. I
haven't heard that.
You said you have or you have not?
I have not.
Oh, yeah. I'll have to send it to you. It's so good. I like it so much better. My wife hates it, but I love it. So, all right, Aaron, what is currently on your writing playlist?
The funny thing for me is I kind of will choose a band or an artist that complements the project I'm working on. Mm-hmm. Like one of the bands that worked really well for me on Brother Dust was 30 Seconds to Mars, because I've always felt there's something sort of operatic but also sort of cosmic about that band. And 30 Seconds to Mars and Muse were probably my two Brother Dust bands. Right now I am ground to a halt, stuck on a short story for like 3 days. And so there's nothing on my playlist right now, my writing playlist. What it'll take, I don't know if I should admit this, but I'm gonna. It'll take Megadeth. That's the band that I go to, and I turn it on, and I can power through any project. So I just realized for me to finish this short story, I gotta get Dave Mustaine and the boys booted up on Spotify. So
I played with Dave Mustaine back in 2008. Played with Megadeth. Actually,
there you go.
Wow.
Staine's a Christian now, and it wasn't a Christian show or anything like that, but it was pretty cool to have that interaction with a guy that he cut a whole bunch of songs from his repertoire because he didn't think that they glorified God. Oh, wow. And so it's really cool to see that in a guy like, leading a band called Megadeth.
Yeah, the offshoot of Metallica.
Yep.
That's my go-to band. Either Metallica is one of my go-to bands, or Amberlin is my other go-to band.
Amberlin, they were great.
Yeah, we I saw them 3 times in concert, and I got to go to their farewell tour.
Have you listened to Acceptance, the band Acceptance?
Oh, that new album is amazing.
That band's fantastic too. I love it.
I know a lot of people were upset when they kind of took a hiatus. Have you listened to their new album that came out?
I've listened in snippets.
Okay, it is so good. I'm not sure if there's a song I like to skip over on it. That's a good album. Yeah, I like them. They're good. And I know Steven Christian is releasing a solo album this year.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he teased with I guess the album cover back in March. But he hasn't released any snippets or anything yet. So it'll be interesting to see what he does, because he did Anchor and Braille on the side. So it'll be interesting to see what he's going to do for a solo project. So, yeah, Amberlin was great. So the next question, we'll stick with you first on this one, Aaron, is if you were stuck in a zombie apocalypse, which one of your book characters would you want to be stuck with, and then why?
Oh, man, that's tough. It's almost like you almost have to say Brother Dust, but he's such a downer. Like he would depress me. I'll go with something obscure from one of my first novels, a character named Lance Parker, who essentially I created, like, in my mind, he was just Tom Cruise. He was like Tom Cruise, every action role Tom Cruise ever did mixed into one. And so he was pretty efficient killing machine kind of guy. So there you go.
There we go. That works. Steve, how about you? What if you were stuck in a zombie apocalypse, which one of your book characters would you want to be stuck with?
I wrote about 180,000 pages. No, I'm just kidding. I wrote a fantasy book back in like 2003 that I never actually completed, which I think is everybody's story. But the main character, actually, it wasn't 2003. I'm sorry, it was late. It was a little bit later than that. Anyway, one of the characters was modeled after my wife, and so I probably would take her because, like, I still want somebody hot to look at while the zombie apocalypse is going on. I don't have any anticipation of lasting very long during the said zombie apocalypse, so I might as well be with a really attractive woman at the same time.
There we go.
Wow.
That works. All right, Steve, we'll stick with you for this one. If you were stuck in a zombie apocalypse, but you could pick any character from any media source, comics, books, games, whatever, who would you want to be stuck with and why?
I would say let's go ahead and go with Rick from The Walking Dead, because I feel like I just want to hear him say "Carl" a lot. I would rather have the humor of listening to his terrible American version of his Georgian accent from the British guy. I want the humor.
Okay. And Aaron, same question to you.
Carl!
Wow.
What kind of bees are dead, Carl? Zombies. Get it, Carl?
I can't work under these conditions. For some reason, the first thing that popped in my head, I'm just going to go with it. Darth Vader.
Oh, wow.
Lightsaber would be the ultimate zombie fighting weapon. Darth Vader, at that point, I'll just serve his evil empire or whatever. There's no real consequences to it. So there you go.
Can I take mine back and say Ash? I totally want Ash from Army of Darkness.
I thought you were saying Pokemon.
Not Pokemon.
Pikachu, I choose you.
If I could get the humor from Ash and he kills zombies. So
there we go.
Yes,
that works. Stuff. All right, Aaron.
Darth Vader's fantastic.
Yeah, that's the second time I've heard Darth Vader. I think and I just heard it like last month, I think. Or maybe it was this month. Was it Rhett Bruno? I can't remember who said it.
Did Rhett say it?
I'm going to have to go back and listen now. I want to.
Both of the guys that I'm writing books with said Darth Vader. What does that say about me?
that you're smart enough to team with smart people.
They know what to do to survive. Aaron, we'll come to you with this one. If you had a time machine, where would you travel and why?
Oh, man. My immediate thought is, and maybe this is really weird, but I'm just going to be like ridiculously honest here. I would love to go back and watch Jesus teach, but I would want to be like in the crowd and just observe, because like Jesus's like closest disciples and followers, like they all got brutally killed in the end. So I'm like I'll just watch, and maybe I'll be moved to go join up after I watch from the crowd. But for now, my answer would be to just go and observe from afar. But it's Jesus is the Son of God, like he would know I'm there. So I'm gonna get dragged into something. I know it once I'm there. But yeah, so that's my answer. I mean, and maybe that's a cliche Christian kind of answer, but that's just kind of where my mind immediately goes. How cool it would be to take these words that mean so much to me in the Bible and be able to go see them as they were first spoken would be incredible to me. So
yeah, it would. And Steve, to you, same question.
Am I allowed to come back to time?
You can go back. You can go forward.
And like once I go, am I coming back to modern day?
You are. Yes, you can.
Yeah, this is the easiest thing ever. I would go back to like Apple's beginnings, and I would invest a ton of crap money and just a crap ton of money in Apple and some other things, and then come back and never work again in my life. I mean, I would assume that the pastor would be like, I want to go see Jesus, but no, I want to just make a bunch of money so that I could just live an enjoyable life, doing the things that I want to do, pastoring without taking money from the church.
There you go.
And write books. You know?
That works. That's
Can I do that? Do you have a time machine? Because this sounds like a great idea.
I don't, but Paul Kohler wrote a book called Linear Shift, and it's this guy that gets recruited by the government to go back and stop an event that happened during World War II that would make the war shorter and less people would die. And one thing he decides he wants to try to do is there were some coins, some pennies, something was wrong with, I forget what it was now. There's these pennies that if you have now, they're worth crap ton of money. And so he wants to try to steal some of those and and put them in the house that he ends up buying, so that way he can get the pennies and then retire.
That's my kind of guy.
So there you go. The last question, we'll come to you first, Steve, is if you could have one superpower, what would it be and why?
One superpower, what would it be? Bunker had the greatest answer ever. He would quell dissent. I would like to be able to instantaneously give everybody the skills of using English properly.
Wow.
That goes with what Michael Kramer said. I don't know if you've listened to that one yet.
I have not.
He said that his superpower would be to make everybody use the Oxford comma.
There it is. Nice. Beautiful.
I thought that was one of the best answers I've ever heard. So there we go. All right, Aaron, how about you? What would be your superpower that you could have and why?
Teleportation. I love to travel, and I also always rank superpowers based on how easy it would be to rob a bank. I don't know why. That's always where my head goes. And teleportation would make that so simple. So I'm not saying I would.
I was going to say, so you're also not a Christian when you have teleportation.
I'm a Christian. It would be a new temptation I would have to deal with. I'd have to pray about it.
I know the answer would.
Oh, that is so funny. All right, Aaron. Well, we're going to come to you first for the question that we are known for here, and that is: a penguin walks through the door right now wearing a sombrero. What does he say, and why is he here?
He says, Aaron, it's you from the future, and you have to come with me.
We're going to teleport into a bank vault. All right, Steve, how about you?
He comes in and he just goes, "Okay, so," and then we went and got chips and queso.
There we go. That works. I wanted some chips and queso so bad last night, but my wife chose the Huddle House. So
I'm assuming Mexico floated down to Antarctica, and that's how this whole thing happened to begin with, right?
That you never know. Maybe you could write a short story about it and create an anthology.
It's been done. We already did the time travel piece, and like we knew this was going to happen. That was Aaron from the future. He's a penguin now.
Yeah,
come on, get with it.
You can't see me. I am a penguin.
That's true.
There we go. And then y'all can either answer this one together, or if you want to answer it separate, I'll let y'all decide how you want to do this. But before we leave, do y'all have any advice, whether it be for writing or for life, that you would like to share with the listeners?
Oh, man, you're asking a pastor.
I know, man. You got time for a sermon?
Let's sit back. Everybody get comfy.
My advice for life is this. It's life is short and it's not about you. If we were in a movie, we would not be the stars of this movie. Jesus would be, and we'd be happy to sit in a corner with a cup of coffee as an extra. God created us, and he loves each and every one of us, and Jesus came for you. I'm not going to give you the whole spiel about why Jesus came, but here's the thing, man. Jesus loves every single one of us, and his desire for us is to be loving toward each other. And I see it all too often in this world that people just can't get along for various reasons. And when Jesus is at the center of the reasons that people can't get along, I know that there's a problem with the person's heart that's even claiming to love Jesus in the first place. The desire that our God has is that we would all love each other with him at the center. And so Jesus is the star of this show. It's all about Jesus. It's not about you. And so at the moments where you start thinking about yourself, is really the moment you need to back up and ask yourself, why am I even alive? It's my best advice on the spur of the moment.
That works. How about you, Aaron?
I guess as you tackled life, I'll tackle writing.
Okay.
That's my best advice to people who want to write is it's simple, and it's probably people will think it's almost stupid maybe, but it's just to do it. I had a friend at church ask me recently, how do you write a book? And I was gentle with him and I was loving, but I basically said, you go home right now and you start doing it. Mm-hmm. Your first draft's never going to be great, but you can't make it great if there's nothing there to polish and to clean up and to work on. So for writing and for people who have always wanted to write and do it, you just got to put some time into it and some effort into it and make it a priority. And you can create and have a lot of fun. And who knows, you might actually get lucky like we have and hook up with some amazing people that help you along the way and sell a couple of books.
Yeah.
So
there we go. And where can our listeners go if they would like to learn more about you or your stories?
hallandbeaulieu.com. You could try to spell that if you want to. I'm sure it'll be in Preston's links down at the bottom.
It will.
Facebook.com/Hall&Beaulieu, Twitter, we're Hall_Beaulieu, and of course on Amazon. We're exclusively on Amazon, so if you have Kindle Unlimited, you can read Brother Dust. You could read the anthologies that we're in, short stories. You could read all that without any fear of losing your 99 cents.
There we go. And for those that don't want to go to the show notes, Beaulieu is Beaulieu.
That's right.
What can your what can your readers and the listeners expect from y'all the rest of 2017? Since you haven't released enough already, what can they expect?
There'll be 2 short story anthologies. There's 22 authors involved in that I've been putting together. Aaron's writing on it. I'm writing on it. Several others. It's a superhero anthology called "It's a Bird, It's a Plane," and the supervillain anthology that's called "World Domination." And then we'll have Brother Dust 2, Gods and Monsters. That'll be out in a few months. And then a yet to be named Brother Dust 3 we're going to try to put out. But it's probably – Aaron's shaking his head no, like there's just no way it's going to happen. We have a novella that we're trying to put out called No God on Mars. And we're working on vampire comedy called 2 Holes. We got a bunch of stuff that we're working on, and man, we're going to put out as much as we can in 2017.
You've already put out a good bit, so I guess anything else is just a bonus.
Oh, hey, and I'm working on something with Rhett Bruno called Luna Missile Crisis, so we're hoping that'll be out later this year as well.
Is that in his Titanborn universe?
It is not. Totally standalone.
Oh, nice.
Magical thing.
Very good. Well, thank y'all for taking time out of your day and coming on 30-minute author interviews. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Preston.
That is all the time we have for this week's episode of 30-Minute Author Interviews. We hope you tune in next Wednesday when we've got another great author interview lined up for you. And don't forget to head on over to Leigendarium.com and find the show notes for this episode. That's where you can get registered for the giveaway where Hall and Beaulieu are giving 2 people the chance to win an ebook copy of their debut novel, Brother Dust: The Resurgence. You'll also find the link to our sponsor, the Galactic Satori Chronicles by Nick Breaker and Paul E. Hicks. Did you know that 30-minute author interviews can be found on iTunes, Google Play, and YouTube? Don't forget to go there and subscribe. That way you will never miss out on our great weekly author interviews. And don't forget to rate and review. And we'd also like to thank a few of our Patreon subscribers. We would like to thank Nick Breaker, Diane S. Loftus, Third Scribe, and Maggie Stewart Grant. They are supporting 30-minute author interviews through Patreon, and they're also receiving the very special Patreon-only podcast called 10 Questions With. So visit patreon.com/Leigendarium and find out how you can support 30-minute author interviews as well. Until next time, stay legendary. Last week, they just... dang it!